Okay, we are live on Facebook. Welcome to the second session of the Sri Vishnu Sahasranamam with technology interludes for ages 8 and up. In the last session, we covered the prayer for removing obstacles. That's the first sloka of the Vishnu Sahasranamam, Shuklam Varadharam. Then you want to recite?
Okay. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Yayet Sarva Vignopashante.
Okay. And then the next one was Vishwaksenas. We saw how the Vaishnavites pray to Vishwaksena instead of to Vinayaka, right? I mean, Vishwaksena is supposed to be the commander-in-chief of the army of Vishnu. And he looks like Ganesha with an elephant face. So Vaishnavites worship Vishwaksena to remove obstacles. And he holds the same position as Ganesha.
Like this?
Yeah. Then we started looking at the preface for Vishnu Sahasranamam, and we started this with this sloka on Vyasa, who is the author of Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita and the Vishnu Sahasranamam.
Aren't these three shlokas kind of like in the Bhagavad Gita, the Pardaya Pratibodhitam shloka? Because it shows the author and then like the background.
Yeah, that's the style in which all these ancient scriptures are written.
Is there a name for that? Like how at the end it's called a Falashruti?
This is the preface. So the first is Shuklam Vardhan, that's to remove obstacles. The second is the Vishnu's, that is the Vaishnavites' way of praying for removal of obstacles. And then comes the prayer to the originator of this. Vyasa is supposed to be the originator, right? So that's why we pray to Vyasa. So you want to recite this sloka?
Okay. Vyasam Vashishtadattaram Shakte Pautramakalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shukataram Taponidam.
Nidhim Shukatatam. He is the father of Shuka. And then we saw a brief introduction to the Hindu literature and texts, right? We talked about Brahmanas, we talked about Samhita, Smriti, Upanishads, we talked about the Yajurveda, Taittiriya, Sikshavali, Kathopanishad, the story about Nachiketa and Yama. So we saw all that, Agama Shastra and all that.
Were they all made in the same time period?
No, they are from different times.
Wait, were some even made in Kali Yuga?
Some of them, yes. About 600 years back. So I think that is still Kali Yuga. So, the Vedas have some slokas from 600 years ago as well. So, but Rig Veda and Yajur Veda are more commonly looked at these days. It is said that the Vedas have 6 limbs, angas, right? Anga means limb. There are 6 limbs. So rituals, kalpa, it's called kalpa. So the rituals form a substantial part of Veda, or at least significant part of Vedas. Rituals are the way we do pujas. So instructions for major life events such as birth, marriage, and things like that. So that is called kalpa. And there is also called nirukta. The other limb of Veda is called nirukta. So nirukta means the etymology, the roots, the explanation of really old words, archaic words. So that is called nirukta, the etymology.
So like a dictionary almost.
Yeah.
For past.
Yeah. These days the dictionary also has etymologies, right? Like it also tells you the roots. So yeah. So yeah, you can think of it as a dictionary sort of thing. Part of it's more about etymology. It doesn't give the meaning and things like that. When you think of dictionary, it's more about meanings, but Nirukta is about the etymology. And the third limb is Siksha. It is focused on the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, the accent, the tone, the melody. So all that is called Siksha.
So Siksha, doesn't Siksha mean student?
Siksha means education, imparting. So it can mean punishment, it can mean education, depending on the context.
So wouldn't the Vishnu Sahasranama and Bhagavad Gita come under Siksha, because you have to either say them or read them or listen to them?
No, Siksha is one of the limbs of Vedas. So it's one of the, see, Veda, what is the textbook? You think it's a book of words, right?
Yes.
So Vedas are not like that. So Vedas have 6 limbs. All the 6 limbs are important. Just like for a person, the 4 limbs, hands and legs are important. The Vedas, the 6 limbs are important. So it is not just a book of words.
So
yeah, it is rituals. It includes rituals. It includes etymology. It includes the pronunciation, the melody, the tone, intonation. So all that is part of Veda. You cannot, that is the reason why Vedas are not supposed to be
casually said,
and they are not supposed to be learned by yourself. They should always be given by a guru. Why? Because
it's auspicious.
no, the 6 limbs are not there in the book. The book has only 1 limb, which is the words. It doesn't have the pronunciation correct. I mean, the pronunciation is there to some extent, but it is not complete. So we saw, right, in the other class on Vedas, we had Purusha Suktam, right? On the 3rd Sunday or something, 3rd or 2nd Sunday or something. So
the Ekachame, Tishrachame, Panchachame, that one?
That was in Vedic math, right? That was, but yeah, that is an example of Veda. So in that, we saw some pronunciation letters, right? Symbols, but that's not enough. So you need to recite Vedas with all the 6 limbs. So which includes the accent, the melody, and all that stuff, right? And then the ritual. So like the Ekachame, Tisarchame, Panchachame, that is recited with what ritual? When is that recited?
During a puja or a yajna?
Yeah, yajna or typically Abhishekam, right? When during Shiva Abhishekam, they recite it. So it's a ritual. Abhishekam is a ritual. So all those are important. And so the reason we covered this slide is because, do you remember why? Or maybe we did not talk about it. So we talked about all this Hindu literature is because Vyasa, who is the originator of, like in the previous sloka, we talked about Vyasa, right? He is the originator of Vishnu Sahasranama, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita. So he also did a lot of work in Vedas. He actually divided the Vedas. He classified the Vedas.
Oh, as Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda.
Yeah, the 4 divisions, yes. He came up with those, and then he also wrote what are called as Brahma Sutras. So if you see here, where are Brahma Sutras here?
Next, underneath Sutra.
Yeah, the Sutras, yeah, here. So the first sutra is Brahma Sutra. He is said to be the author of Brahma Sutras.
But by Brahma, do they mean the Lord Brahma? Because we don't worship Brahma, do we?
Brahma means God. Parabrahma means ultimate God. Brahma in general is referred to as God. So Vyasa did a lot of work in this area. So that is the reason why we covered this slide in the last class. So we will continue that discussion in today's class and talk about Vyasa again. So this is the fourth sloka from the Vishnu Sahasranama. So Vyasam Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye Vashishtaya Namo Namaha. Am I recording? Let me check.
Yes. It says
Right.
recording and live.
Oh, it says that. Okay, good. So Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye Vashishtaya Namo Namaha. I bow before Vyasa, who is Vishnu, Vishnu, who is Vyasa, and again I bow before him who is born in the family of Vashishta. That's the meaning of the sloka. It is quite obvious, right? Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya. Rupa means form. Vyasa is a form of Vishnu.
Like Krishna?
Yeah. Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. Vishnu in the Rupa, in the shape, in the form of Vyasa. So we are praying to the Vyasa in the form of Vishnu, and we are praying to Vishnu in the form of Vyasa. Namo means pray. Na aham na mama. Namo means it has two words. Multiple words. Na aham means neither mine. Na mama means neither Na aham means neither me. Aham means me. Na aham na mama. Mama means mine. So neither mine, neither me, nor me. It's all about you. That is the meaning of Namaha. So when you say Namaste, what are you saying? You are saying that it is nothing about me or mine. It is all about you. You are the ultimate. So when we meet a person, we say Namaste in Indian culture.
I bow down to you. And
it actually means bow down. Bow down is a ritual which actually means neither mine nor me. It is all about you. So you are praying to the God in the other person.
So you're showing respect?
Yeah. So every person, there's God in every person, right? So we pray. That is the deeper meaning of Namaste. That is the deeper meaning of our culture. Our culture is meant to respect others. So Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye. Is the Nidhi of Brahma, godliness. Vyasa is a repository of divinity.
Don't we already say this in the shloka before about Vyasam Vashishthadattaram? Because we talk about Vyasa in that shloka, don't we?
Yeah, but that's about his lineage. Vyasam Vashishta Naptaram, that means he is in the lineage of Vashishta.
Oh, so that's like how in a book, there's like an about the author page. Is that
right?
What
exactly. Like my grandfather used to write books, right? So in his page, the first page, at least in a few books, not every book, but at least in a few pages, in a few books, the first page used to describe about his parents, that was the ancient style. So he used to say all Gotra and everything in that page. So all about himself, about his family. So the same thing is happening here.
So this shloka and the shloka before this were created or were not written by Vyasa, right?
We don't know. We don't know. Like my grandfather used to write about himself in the first page.
Yeah, but like this one, when we say we bow before Vyasa, you won't write that you bow before yourself, or else that's just egotistic.
It may be egotistic, but in Bhagavad Gita, what happens? Lord Krishna, what does he say? Lord Krishna says, I am the ultimate God. You prayed to me. In so many words, he says that he is the God. Is that
And-
egotistic?
No,
Egoistic?
it's true.
It's truth. Same thing here. It is the truth.
Oh,
Because somebody who can write this kind of deep philosophies has to be the God himself.
so Vyasa is God.
Yeah. So it could be him, it may not be him, but either ways, that is a fact. So Brahma Nidhaye, that means is the repository of godliness, divinity. Vashishtaya means we already know Gangeya. Huh?
He's the great
Yeah,
grandson
he is
of Vashishta.
in the lineage of Vashishta. Who is Vashishta?
He's another sage, Muni.
Yeah, he is the guru of Lord
Rama.
Rama and Lakshmana and the four brothers. So he is in the lineage of Vashishta, right? Namo Namaha means I go again and again, right? So Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidaye Vashishtaya Namo Namaha. So how is Vyasa Vishnu? And we only know of the 10 Dashawataras, right? 10 avatars. How come Vyasa is Vishnu himself?
Well, okay, go ahead.
Well, Vyasa is a god, and Vishnu is basically the god of all gods. So wouldn't that work? And
Yeah.
Vyasa, and you said that like if you're praying to God, then you're God. And isn't Vyasa like always thinking about God? So isn't he always God?
Yeah, good
And-
thinking. So good
and-
thinking. Yeah.
Isn't whoever like Rama
Can
once said to Hanuman that
you
that
forget
whoever
the
is
name?
praying to me is actually me. So when they're praying, then I am actually inside them. So in that way, he's he's God. And also we learned in previous sessions that everybody is eventually part of God and was God before. So Vyasa was in his very last birth before reaching Paramatma, God. So that's why he's very connected already to God, because it takes many, many lifetimes. And yeah.
Yeah, I think all those are correct answers and good answers, good thinking. But there's a story we talked about in the last class, if you remember, how Vyasa was born.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember?
Is he the one that was born on the island?
Yes. Yeah, he is born on the
Oh.
island.
I
And yeah, so that is the story. So the point is that Matsya, Kurma, Rama, Krishna, Parashurama, they are all direct incarnations of Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, right? But God also resides completely in noble souls, right? Like Vyasa. Vyasa's original name is Krishna Dvaipayana. Krishna because he is dark. Krishna means dark,
Black.
black. Dvaipayana means Dvipa means island. In Indian languages, Dvipa means island. So he is born on an island. You remember the story, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
He's born really dark.
yeah, Parashara, the Muni Parashara, he was crossing the river. And the boat was being rowed by Matsyagandhi or Satyavati, the same lady who married
King
Shantanu. Yeah. So you don't remember? We talked about this story, right, last time?
I don't remember Satyavati being the
So,
person, but yeah, I remember.
so she's actually a fisherwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah, we learned about that in the Bhagavad Gita stories.
Yeah, she's a fisherwoman. So that is why she is called Matsyagandhi, because she has that smell of fishes. But she is very beautiful, very good looking. So So she is a fisherwoman, so she has a boat, obviously, right? And the boat, she used to use that boat to carry people from one shore to the other as well. So this Parashara Muni, he wants to cross the river and he sees Matsyagandhi, Satyavati's boat. And just like any other person, he boards the boat. And then he does his work while on the boat. And he's a great astronomer. You remember I told you,
Oh,
right?
he's the one that made the prediction. that she-
Ahora. He wrote Parasara Ahora, the Jyotisha. So he wrote the Jyotisha Shastra, astronomy.
Is he the one who prophesied that Satyavati would become a queen?
No, he did not prophesy that, but while he was working on that astronomy, he found out that in a few minutes, if a child is born in some few minutes from now, that child will be the form of Vishnu himself, Lord Vishnu himself.
From the
So
stars?
yeah, Lord Vishnu, the form of Vishnu himself. So he tells this to the fisherwoman, Satyavati. He says that in a few minutes, if somebody is born to me, then that child is going to be direct form of Vishnu.
Oh, so then he
Um,
says he takes his power and uses it to give Satyavati the baby.
Yeah, then Satyavati is, he asked Satyavati whether she wants to be the mother of that baby. And then Satyavati agrees, but she's unmarried at that time, right? So she says, this is a divine wish. I cannot say no, but I have a few conditions. She's used to putting those conditions, even with
King Shantanu.
Yeah.
Shantanu, she put conditions, and with Parashara also, she puts conditions. Some conditions, she should be again like an unmarried girl after the birth. That is one condition. The other condition is that there are people on the other shore, right? They should not see this birth and all that. So for that reason, what Parashara does is he creates an island which is completely covered by mist so that nobody can see what happens there. And then Vyasa is actually born on that island, created by the power of Parashara's knowledge and penance. So and the boy is dark, Krishna. So that is why he was named Krishna Dvaipayana. Krishna because dark, Dvaipayana because he was born on an island. So that is the cause. He's a Karana Janma. His birth is a Karana Janmudu, means his birth has a strong reason. He's not born like anyone else. So he is supposed, that's one of the stories behind why he's called Vishnu, a form of Vishnu.
So he's like Venkateshwara because Venkateshwara is also an avatar of God, but he's not listed in the Dashavatara.
Yeah, you can think of it like that also. So, so that is the story behind this sloka. So he's actually a form of Vishnu, and his deeds are also like Vishnu. What is Matsyavatara? Matsyavatara is saving the Vedas, right? Saving the Vedas.
And coming like reducing the adharma.
Yeah. The same thing with Vyasa's birth. Vyasa saved the Vedas. He made sure that Vedas are understandable to more people. If nobody understands, what happens to the Vedas?
They slowly die out.
They die out, right? If there are no practitioners, then the knowledge dies. So that is why he came up with this simplification process of the Vedas. He is one of the 16 Chiranjeevis.
Stars?
Chiranjeevi means immortals. They don't have death. Even today they are living.
Oh, like Hanuman.
Like Hanuman.
Wait, Vyasa is still living?
Ashwadhama, Vyasa.
Vyasa is still living?
Yeah.
Where?
We don't know. He must be somewhere. But he is still living. He is considered as the one of the 16 Chiranjeevis who is still living.
Is the island that he was born China is still there?
That we don't know.
It probably got eroded
Yeah.
after all that time.
Yes, possible. So why is he called Vyasa? His name is Krishna, right? Krishna Dvaipayana. Why is he called Vyasa?
Because of
What does
Vishnu?
Vyasa mean?
Exactly. That is the right question to ask. What does Vyasa mean? Did you encounter any word which starts with Vya?
Well, we know that V means not, or sometimes it can be helping.
And what else? Vibhajan, did you hear the word Vibhajan?
Yeah, but we know what Bhajan means.
Yeah, Vibhajan means splitting. So what does V mean in this case? You're right. V is part of Vyasa, so V has a meaning here. What it is obviously not right. It is not it is not working as a negation here.
Well, in other times, like in Vijaya, it means it's like just
Supporting.
helping Jaya.
There is a third way V is used. Like I said, Vibhajana. Vibhajana means splitting. V is used as a splitter. So Vyasa actually means to split, to analyze, to differentiate. So Vyasa means differentiate. So like Vyakarana, there's another word called Vyakarana. Vyakarana means grammar. Why is grammar called Vyakarana?
Because in grammar, we split up the word
Right.
in the sentence,
We
and
analyze the
passage,
words.
and then see
That's
how
right.
it fits together.
Right. That is why it's called Vyakarana. The act of splitting, differentiating, analyzing to gain deeper meaning is called Vyasa. So why is he called Vyasa then?
Because
What-
he wrote all of the Bhagavad Gita, and he wrote the Brahma Sutras, and he analyzed the Vedas.
Yeah, he analyzed the Vedas. Vyasa means analyzing, right? Differentiating.
So
So-
Vyas,
That is the reason why he's called Veda Vyasa. He's not just Vyasa, it's actually Veda Vyasa. The correct word is Veda Vyasa, but people shorten it to Vyasa. But it actually is, his name is Veda Vyasa, means one who divided the Vedas, one who analyzed the Vedas. Why did he analyze the Vedas? So that more people can understand them. And if they're not divided, if suppose you didn't have subjects like what are some of the subjects in your
Math, English.
suppose you
history,
didn't have those subjects, everything was together, would it be easy or
it
difficult?
would get more and more difficult and all
It will-
jumbled up, and we'd most likely skip a few things and not learn them in our haste to finish everything.
Right. So you get the reason for splitting, right? So before Veda Vyasa, the Vedas were all together. They were all a bunch of Vedas.
Oh, so he was the person who split the Vedas.
He first split the Vedas.
So aren't we also, or aren't you Vyasa right now, because you're analyzing it and making it easier for us to understand
Yes.
in a smaller
yeah.
way?
Yeah, in one way, yes. So that is the reason why Vyasa is a common word even today. There's something called Vyasa Pitham. That's a concept. So Vyasa is any guru, the teacher can be considered as Vyasa, but not to the extent of Veda Vyasa.
It's more specific.
Vedas are the ultimate knowledge of of the mankind, right? It is very extensive, it is very vast, and it is very deep, very, very deep. So to understand all that and dividing them into 4 parts, it's not an easy thing. So Veda Vyasa is many, 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 many times more than the ordinary teachers, right? The teachers who analyze and make it simple for students to understand. He's many, many, many times, right? So there is a sloka in Vishnu Purana that says that, which says that Vyasa, this role, Vyasa is actually a role.
An analyzer.
Yeah. So Vyasa will make, and just like Dashavataras, right? So in Vishnu Purana, it is said that there will be many Vyasas, and the Vyasas will keep coming back in the world again and again in order to clarify the truth.
Like Ramanujacharya and the
Yeah,
other acharyas.
yeah, they're not really Vyasas, but yeah, we can view them as Vyasas as well. They are not Veda Vyasas.
Even mother and father, aren't they Vyasas?
Yeah, in some way they are Vyasas because they analyze things for you, they simplify things for you. So, but the Vyasa that Vishnu Purana says is the ultimate Vyasa, who is going to clarify the truth in a great way, in a substantial way, like Veda Vyasa did. So,
Is it kind of how like we're all God, but Krishna and Rama and the Dashavataras have more and more God than we do inside? They're like they bring it out more.
yeah,
Is it the same thing?
yes, that's right. Yeah, something like that. So, in our so this Vyasa that we are talking about is the Vyasa from Dwapara Yuga. So according to our culture, right, the universe is a cyclic phenomena. Everything, most of the things anyway happen in cycles, right?
Satya Yuga, Treta
Right.
Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, and then back to Satya Yuga.
Yes, correct. So it's a cyclic phenomena that repeats. So the universe comes into existence and dissolves. So that is the concept. So each of these cycles is presided by a Manu, somebody called Manu. Manu means ancestor or a progenitor, somebody who gives rise, like Adam, right? In
Oh, Adam and Eve.
yeah, like Adam. The concept of Adam in some cultures, we have the concept of Manu. Manu is a progenitor, is the
First
ancestor.
human.
Yeah, and through him, the entire mankind is born. So there is one Manu for each of these cycles.
So at the end of each cycle, everybody gets destroyed and one person remains.
Yeah, one person remains, or one person's race remains, sort of.
How do we know this, especially because this is the first cycle, right?
Yeah, but there is knowledge, there is writing on the stone. Like Lord Rama, it is said that Lord Rama carved on a stone that the next avatara, he is going to come back to the world as Krishna. And he also said that in Kali Yuga, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. These two lines are going to be the salvation in Kali Yuga. These two lines, when somebody repeats these lines, the Kali will not touch him. The Kali effects will not touch him. Hare means remove, reduce.
Ha and Ri.
Yeah.
Take out the sins, evoke them, and then burn them.
Yes. So repeating the names of Rama and Krishna will remove all sins in Kali Yuga. The effect of Kali will be less on them who repeat Hare. That's what Lord Rama said, carved on a stone. So that's how we know.
Didn't Rama also say something like all of the yagyas and everything will go out of effect in Kali Yuga except for 2 or 3 stotrams?
That was in a Purana. Yeah, we talked about that, right? Once. Yeah, that's right. So, so the Manvantara, Manu, Anvantara. Manu is the progenitor. Anvantara is the time period. Astrological. Manvantara is the astrological time period. So it is divided into 4 epochs.
Epochs?
Yeah, the word is epoch. Epoch is in Sanskrit, it is also yuga, yugadi. So 4 yuga, just like a year has 4 seasons, the yuga has, the Manvantara has 4 epochs or yugas.
Except you guys are way, way longer.
Yeah, they are way, way longer. Like you said, Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga.
Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga? Are they
Yeah,
the same
Satya,
thing?
they are the same thing. Yeah. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga.
Krita Yuga is in creation, right? Because the
Yeah,
start of
start
everything.
of everything. That's right. So the Dwapara Yuga is a third Yuga, right? Krita,
Krishna's Yuga.
Treta, Dwapara. Dwapara is third. Yeah, Krishna's Yuga is the Dwapara Yuga. So the Vishnu Purana, the third chapter of the Vishnu Purana says that in every third yuga or epoch,
Third?
yeah, third is Dwapara, right? Every third yuga, which is Dwapara, Vishnu in the person of Vyasa will appear, and in order to promote the goodness of Vedas, of mankind, this person is going to divide the Vedas.
But soon won't they just get divided and divided and divided until they're super small?
Yeah. So the Vyasa that we are studying appeared in just one yuga before, Dwapara Yuga. In
So
this
very
Manvantara.
recent.
Huh?
Very recent.
So by the way, who is the Manu for our time?
Adam and Eve,
Manu.
the starter, right?
Yeah, the starter. So during puja, we say a word. When we say Sankalpam, Vaivasvata Manvantare, Kali Yuge Pradhame Pade, America Khande, Pacific Mahasamudra Madhye. Right? You remember that during
Yes.
puja? So that is where we are. I mean, we describe the current situation. So the current situation is Vaivasvata Manvantara. So Vaivasvata is our Manu. He is our progenitor. They are all born from Vaivasvata. So this is the Manvantara of Vaivasvata.
Does he have a last name?
There's no last name. Last name, remember, is a British concept. It's
Oh.
not ancient concept. So Vaivasvata is the Manvantara's name.
Was he born in India?
We don't know, but yeah, most of our culture is in India because of the temperature and things like that. It was only feasible. The civilization was ancient.
And then there was lots of resources there, so enough
Yeah.
to make a settling.
That's right. So, so yeah, this is Vaivasvata Manvantara. So for Vaivasvata Manvantara, the Vyasa is Krishna Dvaipayana. For another Manvantara, it could be some other Vyasa. We don't know. So it is said that so far there have been 28 Vyasas born.
Wait, so this is the 28th Yuga?
Yeah, 28, not Yuga,
Cycle.
28 Manvantara. That's what people believe.
So the Dashavataras are only from this Manvantara or from all of them?
Dashavatara, it's all this Manvantara.
Wow, so they were more.
Treta Yuga.
Than.
Yeah.
Do
So
we have
whatever
any-
we know is from this Manvantara. All the Rama story, Krishna story, it's all this Manvantara. So people are very limited, right, in their understanding. We don't understand a lot of things, and Vedas are so deep that it is very difficult to understand if there is no one to explain in detail. See, for Vishnu Sahasranama, we are having these classes. Why? Because it is not easy. You just read this sloka. Would you be able to make out all these things that we talked today?
No, we probably wouldn't be able to even understand or even say it.
Yeah, even 1% of it or 10% of it, we would not have understood, right? So there needs to be someone to analyze and explain. And that is the role of Vyasa, who is born in the third yuga of every Manvantara.
Are there any other things like that for the second and first and Kali Yuga, fourth?
So the next Manvantara, there will be again Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And during Dwapara Yuga, another Vyasa
Vyasa.
will be born, and he will simplify the Vedas
The
further.
30th Vyasa or
29th Vyasa, I
oh,
think, right?
okay.
I remember it's 28. I'm not very sure, but that's how I remember. I don't know if it is 28 so far or 28 to come or something like that is there, but I remember the number 28. So, so the body, the person, the role that this person assumes is called Vyasa, Veda Vyasa. So that brings us to an interesting concept of, you asked me, right? Is anyone who analyzes is Vyasa? That's what you said, right? You asked me. So these days, machines also analyze.
So are
Hmm?
they somewhat Vyasa?
They are fulfilling to some extent, they are fulfilling what the role of Vyasa is meant to fulfill. They analyze, but at a very different level. See, how are we able to see, we talked about the generative adversarial networks and how fictitious images, real life looking images are generated, right? Using machine learning, right? So what is the basis for that kind of machine learning?
Human
The
knowledge.
basis for that kind of machine learning is what is called as the artificial neural network. So we have what is called as the artificial neural network. So why is it artificial?
Because it's not real knowledge like ours.
It is made by man. Anything made by man is called artificial. And why is it neural?
Because it's neurons and connecting and brains.
Right, brain. If we want to see how the brain works and then try to get inspiration from it. So neural networks, because it's all connected. So this is the basis for, we talked about a lot of machine learning algorithms, right? Like, did we talk about logistic regression? No, right? Support vector machines, we talked about.
Yes.
Decision trees, we talked about, right?
Yes.
So, but this algorithm is the fundamental algorithm for deep learning, what is called as deep learning. And deep learning is what was used to generate those fictitious images, right? Real life looking images. So let us go into the basics, right? So first, let us look at a building block of every electronic device.
1 or 0.
One
On or
or
off.
zero, 1 or 0. And these ones and zeros can be combined. They have to be combined, obviously, right? You cannot do anything without combining them, right? So you have to combine them. There are a few ways to combine them. So one of the fundamental ways to combine these ones and zeros is called OR. OR. It's like English OR, right?
Or
Yeah, OR. So it's called a gate. The way so you all know what is the meaning of OR, right? So
like either
if-
this or that.
yeah. So take these two books. So 2 books, right? So if so when you say this book or this book, what do you mean?
Either. Any
Either.
one of them.
Okay. So you'll still get a book at the
Right.
end. Okay, now if you don't have any books in your hand and then say either this or that, how many will you have?
None.
None, 0, right? And suppose again you have both the books in your hand and say this or that, you still have one, right? So that is exactly what is shown in this table. When there is nothing, when x is 0 and y is 0, you get
0.
nothing. When okay, the other way is suppose I have nothing in left hand and one book in my right hand, and if I say this or this, what will I get?
You either get 1 or 0, but
Yeah,
based on your knowledge, you pick 1.
yeah, we pick the book, so we'll still end up in 1, right?
Yeah.
If your goal is to study, you will pick the book. You will not pick the empty hand, right? So it is. So that is one.
But what if
Well,
there are
actually-
2 books and instead of
So
or?
yeah, what I talked about is and actually. So in or, if there is nothing, of course you will get nothing. But if one of them is nothing, then you get nothing also. That is the definition of or.
Because it's probability.
Yeah, you can think it's not probability, but oh, sorry, what am I doing? Sorry, got mixed up. Yeah, you're right. What I told was correct. I got mixed up with the AND gate. I don't know how it slipped, but so or, I mean, the example still holds good. So one empty hand and one book, you pick the book
Yeah.
when you say or, right? So if your hand has at least one book, if one of the hands has one book, then the result is one. But if there's nothing in both the hands, then the result is nothing, right? That is logical. So as long as there is at least one in the inputs, the output is always one. So that is the definition of or. If both are zeros, then it is zero.
So it's kind of like positive and negative in some way. If there's at least one object, then it's already positive. Regardless if there's 1 or 2 ones or 20 ones.
Yeah,
But
as
if
long as there
there's-
is one, the OR gate will give you one.
But if there's no ones or no like actual data or actual numbers, then you're obviously negative.
Yeah,
Nothing to do.
yeah. So, so that is called a OR gate. Why is it called a gate? Because it's like a gate. There are 2 inputs, you're allowing only one output. So it's like a gate. So this is a building block of every electronic device, like this laptop, like your watch, like many things, like your cell phone, your smartphone.
So
All those have these kind of gates.
isn't that exactly how a calculator works though?
Yeah, calculator also.
By simplifying it?
Yeah. So you can think of OR as plus. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 0 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is still 1 because in binary there's no 2, right? It's not really plus, but I'm just giving you an example to understand the function of OR gate. But even logically also, right? When you say this or that.
So it's asking like when or in this case x plus y, the product of x plus y, how many digits is that number? Or like how wait, so there's no way you would get 2 even if
You yeah,
big
if you
number?
plus, if you do plus, you will get 2, and there's a different way to represent 2. So instead of or, you have a plus here. If there's no plus gate, the building blocks are or and. So there's an OR gate and there's an and gate. So OR, the function of OR is this. So 0, 0, it's like, it's very logical, right? 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. And then the output is like this. Now, is this output linearly separable? That means, can you draw a line separating the outputs into, there are 2 classes, right? Zeros and ones. Can you draw a line which will separate the zeros and ones? Just look
yeah,
at,
from the top
yeah,
right
just,
after the first number.
right. Just cut like this, and then 0 is on one side and the 3 ones are on one side. So
But-
it is linearly separable.
Isn't that just the order that we put it in? Because we could put it any way. We could start with 1 plus or 1, and then have 0 and 0, and then have the 0, 1, 1, 0. Right? Isn't it just based on the order that we feed it into the machine?
No, look
it
at
really
this table.
matter?
Look at this table. and zeros are all on one side, ones are all on one side. So it is linearly separable, right? So these are the inputs and this is the output, and it is linearly separable, right? You remember linearly separable, right? Support vector machines, men and women. We talked about the example of the height and the weight,
Yeah.
and then saw that how they are linearly separable and all that.
Like, and then we learned about K nearest neighbor.
Yeah, k nearest neighbor. So k nearest neighbor, the output need not be linearly separable. But for support vector machines, we first started with the linearly separable case. So right, so same thing we are doing here. This is a linearly separable case. Zeros on one side and ones on one other side. So it is linearly separable. The next gate is called, can you turn on that and switch on the fan? The next gate is called AND. So what is AND? So AND also takes two inputs. The inputs are zeros and ones. The lines. Okay. Okay, so you get it right. So in the OR gate, the two inputs were combined using the OR operator to result in one output. In the AND case, AND gate is represented like this. It takes two inputs and there's one output, right? But the output this time is different. The output is one only when both the inputs are one. At all other times, it's zero. It's like multiplication. If OR was like plus addition, AND is like multiplication, because you multiply zero with zero, it will be zero. Zero with one, zero. One with zero, zero. But one with one, it is one. So it is more like product. So this is the other gate that is used in electronic components. It's called the AND gate, right? So it takes two inputs and outputs just one line. And the output is zeros for when at least one input is zero, it is zero. If both the inputs are ones, it is one. So is this linearly separable, the output?
Yes, it is. Right underneath.
Yeah,
The
zeros on
first
one side and one on one side, right? So this is also linearly separable. Now the next type of gate is called XOR gate, exclusive OR. So exclusive OR means that the output is one only when it is exclusive. Only one of them is, only when one of the inputs is one will the output be one. If both the inputs are one, then it is not exclusive, right? You know the meaning of exclusive, right?
Right.
Means,
Special.
yeah, excludes.
Others.
So if one of the inputs is one, it should exclude the other input from being one. That is what is exclusive. So in exclusive OR, only when one of the inputs is one, the output is one. When both the inputs are ones, it is zero. The output is zero. So it will test the condition when the inputs are exclusively one.
So then this one would be somewhat like subtraction, where you put the greater number and subtract the smaller number from it, and then the final number, the one that remains, is the number that's the output. So 0 minus 0 is 0, 1 minus 0 is 1, and then 1 minus 1 is 0.
Yeah, you can think like that, but it is not exactly subtraction, right? It is not exactly subtraction, but you can think about it like that. It's an easy way to understand. So, but the main thing, these are all logic gates. I gave the example of addition and multiplication just to make you understand. But actually, these are logical gates. Logic means, you know the meaning of
Yeah,
logic,
whether
right?
it
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
Reasoning.
yeah. So you can use English examples, logic examples, and apply this logic, you'll get the same thing. So this is XOR, right? This tests the condition whether the inputs are exclusively one, right? Only when the inputs are exclusively one, the output is one. So is this output linearly separable?
No, it's not. Well,
Why?
very well, because 0 is on either end.
Right,
You'd have to make two
exactly.
lines.
You understand that. Very good. So this is not linearly separable because the ones are in the middle. So it's like more like a circle or something like that. So the ones are in the middle and the zeros are on the other side. So this is not linearly separable. But when you look at how there's no real XOR gate in the electronics, there's nothing which looks like an XOR gate, which is an XOR gate. You don't build XOR gates. You
How
build
come?
XOR from AND gates and OR gates.
Like a mix of both.
Yeah. So A plus B times A bar plus B bar.
What does
Bar means
mean?
negation. So if A is 0, A bar will be
Positive?
1. If A is 1, A bar will be
Wait, then 0.
0. So that is the negate. So the three basic gates, OR gate, AND gate, and NOT
Exclusive.
gate. NOT gate. So NOT gate simply converts 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. OR gate and AND gate, we saw what it does, right? So by combining the OR, plus is like OR, dot is like multiplication, is like AND. That is a symbol for
Multiplication.
multiplication. So you can write XOR as this first formula or as second formula. You can check. Suppose A is 0 and B is 0. What will be the output of this? 0 into?
Times 0. So 0.
No. 0 into?
Oh, 1.
Yeah, B is 0. So B bar will be 1. So 0 into 1 is 0 plus
1 plus 0 or 1 times 0.
is
Still 0.
0. So 0 plus 0 is 0. So output is 0. How about when A is 0 and B is 1?
Then it's
0 into?
wait, if A is 0 and B is 1, then 0 times 0, which is 0. And then the other way, which is still 0, or 1 times 1, which would be 0 plus 1, which is 1.
1. So you see that, right? So you're able to reproduce using AND gates, negation, not AND gate, NOT gate, and OR gate. We are able to create an XOR gate.
Isn't a Boolean a type of string, like character and then Boolean for true and false?
Yeah, Boolean means true or false. So this whole logic was invented by a person called George Boole.
Yeah, we talked about him before.
Yeah, we talked about him, right? So that is the reason why it is called Boolean. The logic is called Boolean logic.
But true and false is only 2. How come we have 3 different
What is
gates?
it? What is it? No, gates are different ways to combine truth and true and false.
Oh, so this is only for the output. The Boolean is for the output, 1 or 0, true or false.
Yeah, the gates are, they'll send only one output. They'll take 2 or more outputs and send only one output. That is why it's called a gate.
And that one output is only, there's only 2 possibilities, so that's why it's called a Boolean.
Yeah. Right? So it's called a gate because it takes multiple inputs and allows only one output. So it's like a bunch of people coming to the gate, and depending on some criteria, only one person is allowed inside. So it's like that. That's why it's called gate. Okay. So So this is a non-linear output, right? You cannot combine, you cannot separate linearly, but you could combine linear gates like OR and AND to generate this kind of functionality, right? So just like that, in machine learning, what are some of the linear methods? Support vector machine, we saw one. Logistic regression is another one, and so on and so forth.
The one where we found out whether someone was likely to steal, wasn't that also linear?
That was
Because-
decision tree. That is not linear. Yeah, so support vector machines and logistic regression. I thought we studied logistic regression, but that's okay. So those are fundamental machine learning algorithms, basic building blocks, simple ones.
So looking at the model where there's two that combine to become one, isn't it the opposite of a decision tree? Because a decision tree is like a flow chart, which is one that splits up into two. So it's the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, but decision tree is a whole different, yeah, you're right. But decision tree is a whole different approach to machine learning. It's a different approach. But in this case, we are talking about how we can use simpler machine learning models, which are linear. Linear is easy, right? Separating points, which can be separated linearly, is very easy. It's relatively easy. If it is, if they're not linearly separable, then the problem comes. So we are trying to look at machine learning algorithms which can help in separating non-linear outputs. And the analogy I was trying to use, the example that I was trying to use is that of the gates. Just like we used the linear gates like OR and simple gates to come up with the XOR functionality, which is a nonlinear functionality, we can do something very similar in machine learning. We can combine simple units together to come up with a complex unit. That is what we do in neural networks. So we will cover that topic next time when we get a chance. So for today, we can stop here. And so you see, whether it be Vishnu Sahasranama, whether it be Bhagavad Gita, whether it be Vedas, or whether it be today's learning, either machine learning or human
General
learning,
knowledge.
it is all about analysis. So it is all about splitting, dividing,
And then
making
putting
it
them
simple.
back together.
Yeah, and then putting them back together. Exactly. So in the next few classes, we are going to see how we can analyze the data to come up with interesting applications, right? Like the application that we saw, generating fictitious images, real life looking images. So we will see how all that can be done using this building block called artificial neural network. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here with our prayer. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Sanmangalani Santu.